Jonathan.
Morning all. I wanted to talk today about a project that I've been working on for a couple of months. It's not a commercial project, and it's fascinating to me. I'm welcoming all the input that you guys can give me. It uses my skills that I use in an everyday capacity as a web designer, but this I feel is for the greater good of the community, so I'm hoping to put something back in with it. Do you ever wonder, why are we at war? How come some rich corporations don't pay tax? How did we spend 11 billion on an NHS database and then throw it away? Why are farmers' livelihoods being given to supermarket chains? What are we actually doing about global warming? Why are those lanterns that went up in the air and were filmed on CCTV coming down and setting fire to a building which then took 4 days to put out, still on the shelves in the shops? Should the council be allowed to close my local fire station, my local police station? So, in our heads, I'm imagining, if you're anything like me, or I'm imagining, even if you're not like me, you've got an issue that you'd like to, or a lot of issues that you'd like to add to the list, to debate. And that's my point. That's what I want to talk about today. So, I'm passing around these pieces of paper, and what I'd like you all to do, whilst I'm talking, is to think of just one proposal. These aren't necessarily my ideas. One or two of them are, but some I just put up for fun, and some are other people's ideas, but they're just to get the juices flowing. And what I'd like you to do in the bottom inch of that sheet, hopefully there were enough sheets for everybody, were there? We need a pen. There are lots of pens, so take your time, have a think, and I'll say when to write. I'm looking for your proposal, your thing that you would do in order to make this a Greater Britain. So,
it's anonymous, isn't it? There's no way of us getting back anyway.
no, this is completely anonymous. So, this.
Right, okay. Dr. Evil.
So this is a democracy, is it? Democracy comes from the Greek for people rule. And, well, I see that we have a democracy about every 4 years. We go along to the polling booth, and we make a mark in the box and we cast our vote for the party that we most believe represents our principles and will continue to go on over the next 4 years to best represent our principles and our beliefs. And we trust that that representative is going to be fairly good for us. The parliamentary system has remained pretty much unchanged since Oliver Cromwell came along. In those days, an MP represented 12,000 people. These days, an MP represents 100,000 people. And with the best will in the world, with the best politician that there is, I think that's a fairly impossible task. So, one party proposes a new idea, a change to the system. The opposition comes along, and they do look like a bunch of children doing it. The opposition comes along and says, no, that's wrong. But they're not really the opposition. The opposition is the media, because the media exposes the scandals and the corruption and the mistakes and maybe the odd good thing that comes out of it. But so in a way, we're trusting the media to be the opposition. And do we trust the media? Well, a third of us don't vote. Why would that be? Well, I think from who I've spoken to and from my own personal opinion, we're frustrated, we're disconnected. We don't really believe that any of the candidates are going to answer the things that we believe in. And politics, quite frankly, has become a dirty word. It's not the thing to talk about at 4N. It's not the thing to talk about in the pub or over breakfast because it's frustrating. There's no logical end to a conversation. How many of you know who your local MP is? How many of you have spoken, have connected with your local MP? And how many know what the MP stands for, what their beliefs are, what they're into?
Well, no, well, parts of it belong too, but that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing.
Okay. So, I think that democracy should be a conversation, a big conversation, just like the internet. Democracy should involve talking, solving problems, collaborating, coming up with great ideas to run our country. If you were heard, if you felt that you had a voice and that your opinion will make a difference, would you take part? Would you be more interested in what was going on? Would it be more than 2/3 of us that took part? So, Britain is home to 63 million people. We've got between us a world of experience, ideas, opinions. Most of us are online. More than half of us are on Facebook. It's a communication we've never had before. It's a technology that allows us to ask people for their opinions or their ideas on a daily basis. It allows us all to get involved. And by us getting involved, we're able to identify the real problems that are facing our society on a local level. We're able to generate the best solutions to those problems. No longer do we have the government going in one direction and then doing a U-turn because they realise that what they're doing is unpopular, which is a terrible waste of money. No longer is a small number of people's political bias going to be relevant because if the population were defining how we move forward, then a small number of people aren't quite as relevant. And that means surely that we get rid of corruption as well. So, I'm a designer. I never really had much of an interest in politics my whole life. I'm a digital designer and an internet entrepreneur. I build websites, I build web applications. I wanted to give something back. I've been really frustrated to see the constant progress of the high-speed rail, which is just down the road. They've already spent £250 million of our money before anything's happened. I keep thinking of Scooby-Doo. I keep thinking of the last scene in Scooby-Doo where the villain's hat is pulled off over their head and he says, "You pesky kids, if it hadn't been for you meddlesome kids, I'd have got away with it." I keep waiting for that to happen with HS2. I'm just so appalled by it. So rather than joining the crowd, because the crowd doesn't seem to have a voice, I've gone about it a slightly different way. If I found through my application that everybody else, that I was a minority, that everybody else thought HS2 was a good idea, I'd be quiet. I'd be satisfied that it was a good idea. So the application that I'm working on is called True Democracy. It's very easy to use. It's going to resemble Twitter a little bit in its simplicity. People that use it will raise their ideas as 160 character propositions. I've left just enough space at the bottom of here for 160 characters. Other people will then be able to amend that proposal or improve or create a whole different proposal. Then they'll say whether they agree or they disagree, and they'll say whether they think it's important or not important. So the useful stuff, the popular stuff, will start to float to the top of the system. If there are issues that haven't got enough votes, they'll be the ones that come to you. Perhaps while you're looking at Facebook, you'll see something raised from True Democracy that asks your opinion on such and such. Basically, True Democracy is going to be a tool for politicians. So the politician can look at figures that represent exactly what the people think. But on the other hand, it's a mouthpiece for people, so it allows you to tell the politicians what you think. Actually, between you and me, I think that we could probably replace the politicians with the application. But in the short term, we want them to support it, so it's a tool for politicians. They're not dinosaurs yet. Can we edit that bit out?
You can edit it out.
So what might True Democracy look like? What I'd like you to do now is, in as clear writing as you can, bottom inch, I'd like you to write a proposal. A little bit like one of these proposals, something that you believe in, If you can't think of anything, feel free to borrow one of these. Has everybody got a pen?
Pen's here.
Pen that's sharp to the ball. If you were Prime Minister, what would you do to change this country?
Sack myself.
I'm not gone over 160 characters.
160 characters.
Really fast to increase that.
That's it. Do you know that many swear words?
Describe it.
Simple, easy. Some people might do
Doing that. Oh, do you get my thinking?
Okay, is everybody done? Right, what I'd like to do is pass it to someone else, maybe the person on your left. Pass it to someone else.
Sit to your left.
Don't judge anyone. It's just for fun. Now, have a quick read of what's in the box at the bottom. Have a quick read of what's in the box at the bottom, and then on the top line, write whether you agree or disagree and how important you think the issue is.
English.
As in the Welsh and Scottish.
English.
So one box on the top.
One box on the top line. When you're done, fold the top line over so that only the second line shows.
Okay.
And pass it on to the person on your left. It's like a game of charades. The only reason I like to fold it over is just people aren't influenced by other people's opinions. Yeah, fold that top line over. And pass it on. How are we doing for time?
You've got
Just the top
Just the top line.
Just the top line, not the whole thing.
Just the top sentence, so you can't see the top line.
Trying to hide your answer. You know what he's like, he's going to cheat.
Yeah, we're reading that.
Fold it over and pass it on. How are we doing for time?
6 minutes. 5 minutes now, probably.
Oh, we've plenty of time. We'll yawn it.
What does it say?
We'll have to go quite quickly, guys.
Is that actually a pen? Is that actually a pen? Is that
This is the quill That's right, man.
Fold it over and pass it on.
It seems there a bit of a shortage of forms doing this way, guys. I like that one. Okay. Can't read that one anyway because you're interpreting it.
Empty.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Who's got the one that they finished with? Who's got the one that they've just done?
I've got one.
We can move this orderly.
Keep them moving. How are we doing?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You come over here, it'll be easy.
Definitely.
Militant tendencies coming through.
Hang on. It's such a guess which one's mine as it comes through.
Yes, I agree with that.
Halfway we get it right.
Okay, that's it too. Privatised the BBC.
Can't read that one, so I'm going to say not sure.
It's a gross assumption that
You're looking so serious. You're looking so serious.
Well, it's a bit daunting. It's the first time we've done anything like this.
I can't read it in the scene, wouldn't we?
Really pondering.
Don't ponder it, it's how it makes sense.
Stop over, Helen. You can read it to me and I'll get it.
I'll do this one.
Sorry.
Oh, this is a bit, ooh.
You've got a hard one.
Yeah,
I think on the real system that things would be moderated.
One of these.
There'd be no beheading and
That's to be free speech, John.
hang on.
well,
Oh, I like that one. It's good.
Pretty would. I've had that one already. You got me reading it twice. That sounds like very well.
Ooh, that I've got one.
Oh, yes.
these files are getting very tight.
Just say you've got lots of
You
facts.
can see a,
Yeah.
you can see a problem with the application already.
You should see him, he does it next to
Yeah,
the server.
it would be better on a computer, wouldn't it?
Yes, people would actually be able to read each other's handwriting on the computer. You don't have to fan it all the way down, you can fold it back on itself if you like. It's only so you can't see the previous answers, so that your opinion isn't coloured by other people's. The idea with the application is that when you've given your opinion, when you've said how important something is, then you'll be able to see what everybody else thinks. And then, if you like, you can go back and change your mind if you find that, I don't know, that you have changed your mind.
Yeah. What happens when you get your own
Are we all done?
Yeah. Well, we're out of time.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, so what I was hoping was that we could crave maybe a minute for comments, or maybe we can do that in a question session. But if you're interested in hearing some more about this and staying in touch, then go to Facebook and you'll see at the bottom of the sheet there's a link. There's a page at facebook.com/betterparty. So if you do a search for Better Party, you'll find all the research that I've come across while I was putting together. Lots of good contributions from other people. Particularly look out for Jessica Pahica, who is in the US, and she talks about an application that allowed the Americans to own the fire hydrants outside their houses in order to keep them maintained and save the council impossible stuff in the snow. But lots of interesting stuff there. Anyway, the point is that digital democracy, direct democracy through digital politics, it's coming. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Does anybody have any questions? Comments?
Any questions for John before we wrap it up?
What do you think of the exercise?
We want to see some results.
John, are you going to put the results out?
Yeah, okay. We'll put them online. We'll publish them. We'll put the movie, Direct Democracy, the movie, on the Facebook page.
I think everyone's obviously got the right.
He's telling us we're too slow. We're telling.
That was really interesting.
Can anybody see any weaknesses or strengths about this? Is it an improvement from what we've got?
John, I've got just one comment. Looking at the questions, people, I think, come from a similar standpoint to my own. And I think by the very nature that we're all self-employed, our responses are going to be completely different from a load of unemployed
It's a really good point.
left-wingers, because we are basically to the right in this room because of the nature of the way we operate.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
I was very pleased to see that most of the questions had a similar sort of background to the one that I was posing.
I suppose it'd be different if we took this exercise to Coventry. What was it called? Coventry City, Ricoh Arena.
Well, there'd be nobody there.
Yeah. We'll be on Sunday, Mike. Okay, thanks, John. That was really interesting. Thank you. The Tower of London's lovely this time of year. Right.